Picture this. You're in front of your latest prospect, closing the biggest deal of your life. Your pitch decks were perfect. Your scripts, flawless. And when the time came to answer the golden question of, are you ready to move forward? Nothing happened. For everyone who loves sales, this is their worst nightmare. But fear not, because in this podcast, we're unraveling the enigma behind those missed opportunities. From appointments that evaporate to presentations that felt like a Broadway show but ended in awkward silence, we're dissecting it all. Welcome to Love Your Sales.
This podcast is presented by GenHead. GenHead leverages AI so small and medium-sized businesses can find their ideal clients to make more sales. Other companies talk about AI, but we are using it every day to drive down marketing costs and increase revenue. Learn more at genhead.com. That's genhead.com.
Welcome to another episode of Love Your Sales. I am excited. I am joined by Catherine Broyce. Catherine is a dynamic and accomplished business strategist and growth coach with a proven record of success in guiding emerging and established leaders and business owners towards achieving overall business performance and optimal wellness. Catherine is recognized for her results-oriented, highly intuitive, and empathetic coaching style, coupled with a goal-oriented approach aligned to the client's well-being. As a certified Focal Point business coach, CEPA and ICF-PCC qualified, Catherine has coached and consulted for over 20 years. She runs her U.S. business, Accelerated Growth 45, which was originally founded in 2004 as Broyce Consulting in Asia Pacific. Catherine's clients consist of Fortune 500 companies and small to mid-sized businesses working with CEOs, senior executives, leadership teams, and entrepreneurs. Catherine specializes in business strategy, exit planning, coaching, and facilitating incorporating mindset, clarity, effectiveness, growth, succession, and leadership. Through her integration of the whole person with purposeful business strategies, she enables business leaders and owners to produce results and enjoy the journey. She has lived the world, 4 countries, 3 businesses, and 4 kids. Catherine has a bachelor's degree in business from the U.S. and 4 fun studies of undergraduate degrees of chiropractic medical sciences in Australia. Catherine is originally from Wisconsin and returned home in 2022. Combining entrepreneurial vigor, strategic acumen, and commitment to comprehensive growth, Catherine consistently influences the financial effectiveness, physical and mental health of businesses, individuals, and organizations worldwide. Catherine, I am so excited to have you join me today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So why don't we start off with, tell me a little bit about your, Accelerate Growth 45.
Yes. So I opened up this arm of the business it was June of 23, where the focus is on small to mid businesses to support them in their growth endeavors. And that's not just only in terms of the bottom and the top line of the business, it's also growth in themselves, because I say to people that you are your business, because the person behind the business is the one who's creating the experiences, making the decisions, and taking the action. So it's focusing on their growth too, and also their personal wealth and well-being growth. So it becomes a very holistic approach because my philosophy is okay, great. You can work really, really, really hard, make tons and tons of money, but if you're miserable, what's the point?
Right. Absolutely. And this is obviously, as you know, the world knows, is the well-being and the happiness of the entrepreneur, of not just the entrepreneur, but everybody has, this has become the forefront of all, not all, but so many more conversations that people are having. You know, the looking at people as the whole person, not just one thing.
Mhm.
It's ever more important. We can't just go to work and be miserable and come home, and you have to find a way to find fulfillment, I guess, in what you do the majority of your life, which is work.
Yeah, 100%.
And this, and as I say that, it seems so backwards. Like, why do we spend the majority of our life working so that we can live?
I know, it's crazy. It really is. And you know, you hear a lot of senior leaders or business owners use the term hamster wheel, and they feel like they are on a hamster wheel and they cannot get off. And I've been there. You know, I know what it feels like. I've had businesses that have succeeded. I've had ones that have failed miserably. I've worked in jobs that I've hated, and ones that I've loved. And so it's really about helping people to create value, not only in their business, but in their life. So they don't feel like they're on that hamster wheel and they can actually get off.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. The feeling like you're just constantly running and never getting anywhere is, it's a horrific, it's a horrific feeling. And I think that everybody is at one point or another experienced that in their life. And um it, yeah, it's not fun.
Mm-mm.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk, how do you begin to work with somebody and to, I guess, shift that mindset? And
Yeah.
is that the right terminology?
It is a mindset. In many ways. But the first thing I do is I go in and really kind of look under the hood of a business, as well as the person running the business. And it's finding the gaps. And once the business owner sees the gaps, normally there's this kind of eyes wide open. And it's really getting that mindset shift, and from the business perspective of looking at your business as a value business versus just a lifestyle, just basically being an employee of you. So, you know, it's actually like, are you building something that not only gives you the profit that you want, it gives you time back. And when you build a business in a, you know, in the right way, you know, ultimately that's what will happen, is that you will make more money and you will get more time. And from that, you're creating, if you have a good strategic plan in place, you're creating your own personal wealth. And all of that begins to lead to a much more increased well-being, because when your overwhelm is down, you're making money, and you know, you're enjoying what you do and you're getting time back, you know, you're getting the results and you're enjoying the journey. So that's really important, in terms of when I work with people.
Very interesting. And so you said that they kind of have this, you know, oh moment. Like, so obviously I'm going to guess that there are so many different, not one business is going to look like another business when you finally, you get in there and you're like, okay, so here are the gaps. And when I hear growth, of course, as a salesperson, my first go-to is, well, growth, that's sales, right? But there's so much more that goes
Absolutely.
into that. So let's kind of break down some of the buckets as to where that can potentially fall and how you begin to kind of, I guess, peel back the onion.
Yeah. So the first thing to growth, and not all growth is good, by the way. You know, people hear the word growth, and there are so many businesses out there, they're growing too fast. They're not ready for it. And it's not landing well. You know, they're losing business because they're not able to service the customers in the way that they should. They're leaving money on the table, and they are absolutely miserable because they're so overwhelmed. So it's about growing smartly. And so the first thing with growth is de-risk. And so when looking under the hood, that's usually the first point of call is, all right, where are those gaps and the biggest risk for that will actually inhibit that business from growing any further or growing well. And there's 4 intangibles really to look at. And the first one is structure. So many of the businesses, when I go in, there's a real lack of structure. And because most people, when they're starting their business, they're wearing all the hats, they're running around like a headless chicken. You know, we've all been there, you know, and that's just what you do to get it started. But then as you're growing and you're going into that growth phase, the owners are still running the business in the same way. And you just cannot run the business in the same way as you did when you started. And so putting structures and systems in place, it's incredibly important in order for then the sales to be able to sell, because you could have the best sales team out there, but if you don't have the capacity behind the scenes to actually fulfill what the
Right.
sales team has sold, you're in a lot of trouble. So so the first thing is structure, would be, you know, is normally where I see a lot of the gaps. And that goes from anywhere from financials to technologies to systems to workflow. Then it's also the human side. It's the people. So it's looking at, you know, do they have enough people? Do they have the right people? You know, what does that look like? How are they retaining and attracting? You know, with so many of these businesses, labor is such a big issue. So
Right.
again, you cannot grow if you don't have the people to, you know, support those sales. And then it's the customers. So then it's looking at the customers. Who are your customers, and who are, you know, where do you find them, and how do you find them, and how do you convert them? And, you know, what is it that you're selling to them? And then lastly, you know, through all of that, as you grow, you want to ensure this kind of goes throughout as you're doing all of these pieces. And depending how big a business wants to go, you want to ensure that you are building a culture that people want to work in,
Mhm.
and that actually stays with as the company is getting bigger. And that takes that really does take thought in terms of how to ensure, well, first of all, know what that culture is, and then do you want it, and then how do you keep it?
Right. And so again, being a salesperson, I've been at a company before where they're like, we need you to stop selling. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Because they realized they had one or maybe even 2 of those problems
Mm.
where they're like, we can't execute. You're going too fast. We can't execute on the work you're bringing in. And that is one of the most crushing. You want to retain your sales team, make sure that you can execute on the work, right?
Mhm.
Um, Otherwise, you know, you tell your sales team you got to slow down. They're going to go, nope, I got to go.
Yeah. And especially that's a shame too, because if when a business is in that situation, they have a really great sales team and they have a great product, and
Right.
but they don't have the back end to fulfill
Right.
what's necessary. And really it is a shame, because when you have good people, you don't want to lose them,
Mhm.
especially right in this day and age where it's really getting hard to find good people.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So the definitely the execution, you know, on the sale is one of the most important in my head. Obviously there are so many other important aspects, you know, that you just mentioned, but if you can't execute on what you just sold,
Yeah.
not only is the client going to leave, but the salespeople are going to leave.
Yeah. And that's, there's not a client of mine, needs to be. I'm trying to keep talking to them about that they are really in trouble. And the demand for their industry is huge. So they don't have to market. Like it's already there because
Right.
there's such a shortage of this particular industry, but they don't have the capacity to fulfill. So they are doing quotes and they're not getting back to the people. They are doing jobs and they're doing half of it and then they cannot finish it because they have other stuff that's going on and taking it away. So the reputation in the market is, yeah, exactly.
And for
And
those of you who are just listening, I just pointed down, and that can kill a company.
absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing is that, the owner is so stressed.
Right.
I mean, it is just blazing, those cartoons where there's like smoke coming out of the
Right.
head, and and miserable. And, and when you're in the weeds like that, and you're in that kind of tornado of, of hell,
Right.
it's really, really hard to zoom out. It's really hard to see past all the work that's surrounding you. But actually, by zooming out, even if it's just for 45 minutes a day, and really looking at that one thing that is going to make the difference, because there's one thing that will actually make the difference in all of that. And then it's just small building off of that.
Right.
It's life changing. And I've had clients say to me, Catherine, gosh, working with you and doing this has been life changing in all aspects. And when I step back, I sit and I go, gosh, but it's only been a few simple things that we've shifted,
Right.
and the impact is huge. And then the sales can go out and they can, take on more customers, and then they end up having more revenue and profit and
Right.
joy.
And it's interesting. I'm in a position right now with my business where things are just exploding and I'm constantly running from one, I feel like I'm constantly doing a sprint from one end, to the other end and as you are speaking, I'm going, oh my gosh, this is sometimes how I feel. I'm like, and now of course you're getting me thinking, Catherine, I'm like, well, what can I shift? And in my head, I think, well, yeah, I could hand this off, but as a high I and a high D on the disc, I the worst ever, because I have this desire to control, and I'm like, well, nobody can do this better than me.
Mhm.
Do you come up against
Well,
not being able to let things go?
well, yes. I mean, first of all, I am a high D and a high I as well. So I know I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you, Leanne. Like I get it. I get what you're saying. But most business owners are similar. Whether they're a D or an I, they like to hold on to their baby, which is their business. And
Right.
and actually, I mean, when you hire people or you add more, when you add more people into your business, it gets more complex. That's just the bottom line. You've got to manage people, and people, we are a very interesting species and sometimes not the easiest in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I, ask, people who I work with and even people who I don't work with is like, when is it that you hit capacity, that you no longer can serve and do your job with only you?
Right.
And then it's actually going, you don't want to get to that place. You need to be 5 steps before that and start thinking about who's going to be that person that can help if you want to get that big. Now, some people are very happy to just say, nope, I'm happy to just be me. I'm happy to just take on enough work that's just that I can handle, and that's fine. Just know where your playing field.
Right.
But the ideal situation is to actually sit and go, okay, I am 30% more business. I'm at capacity, and you don't want to get there. You want to start thinking about it before that and go, what do I need to do to allow me to continue to grow? And usually that's hiring. Usually, we're
Right.
looking at something that you're doing or something that I'm doing. It's hiring.
Right. Well, and that's a whole nother thing, right? What comes, I'm now, and this is, I'm going to say it as if I'm me, but this is not necessarily my situation. So you're at this point really comfortable as a business owner going, yep, I'm making exactly what I need to make. But then you hire somebody, your income goes down for a while.
Mhm.
Because now you got to pay that person, which means now you need to scale up. So that's that constant push and pull, right?
Yes. Well, and again, though, there's different ways of doing it. So it can also be a lot of people start off in doing, 1099s. And so when the work comes, and it's looking at that person that actually it's like, and again, it's, there's pros and cons for everything, but this is what's so important about knowing who you are as a business, knowing who you are as the owner, what's important to you will help you decide who to hire and will help you to decide the right person to hire, because that is everything. And so, having that 1099 and, contracting out when the business comes and that you have it, and training them up to be ready, and finding that person that they might have other gigs on the side and they're happy with just getting some, they don't want to market, they don't want to sell, they don't necessarily want to run a business. They just want people to feed them the clients. I mean, that can be an ideal scenario for somebody like yourself or even myself,
Right.
or, but yes, it can definitely mean that, as you grow, cash gets tighter until you reach that next level.
Very interesting. And that's exactly what I did is, I have a 1099 now, and but it's that entrepreneur, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? You become a 1-person business, then you become a 2-person business. And now I'm a 3-person business, and that growth journey of, how does that, and then at what point does that culture start to really become an actual culture?
Well, it is already.
Oh no.
It will already, because the culture really starts with the owner.
You're
And
right.
however the owner is showing up, how the owner is engaging with customers, engaging with employees or contractors or whoever,
Well,
that culture is already building. And it's
well,
about
then,
being intentional.
well, then my culture is showing up to the office in my PJs. I probably should start, of course, I work from home, but probably should start to shift that a little bit, huh?
Well, no, not necessarily. Because the question, for me, my question would be like, well, what's important to you about that? Because
Right.
there's a value there that's important. And then those are the types of people, you're not going to hire someone that is going to have a problem with that.
You're right. You're right.
And
I have
there's
a very casual, off the cuff kind of personality, I
which
suppose,
is
right?
probably for you also being comfortable, having fun, being yourself. So these might be things that are really high values for you. And so it's really knowing, and it doesn't mean that everyone has to have same values, but there does need to be a couple that are very much in line, in terms of, um, you know, those values that if someone steps on, you're like, you got to know what those are. And those are the people you don't hire.
Right. So, and do you work with companies? I mean, I'm going to guess that you've walked into companies where the culture, the value, their actual what am I looking for? That they don't have that. They haven't written out their company values. They haven't written out what their company stands for.
Well, what's interesting is I've worked with a lot. Yes, I do. And the smaller businesses, most of them haven't. They haven't really thought about it. And I get them thinking about it because it's incredibly important. It helps you make decisions. And as you're growing, you really need to know these. You need to know them even when you're not growing. But what's interesting is like I actually have worked with many companies, small and large, who have all that written out in some shape or form. But you ask employees, what are they? And they're like, I don't know. And like, so they're not living by it. It's just because
Right.
something's written down, it's about how you utilize it and integrate it. And if it's just stuck in a desk somewhere, never looked at, or these long mission statements where people are like, yawning and going, I don't, what does that mean? They're pointless. So it's about really, and actually, to be fair, it's depending on how big an organization is. If there is a toxic culture or not a great culture in that business, it is incredibly hard to change that. And usually if people who do go in to do that, it fails because it is very, very difficult. And so that's why it's really important to always in the back of your head, even when you're just one, and then you get to two people, of thinking of going, okay, what is it that we are doing? What is it that is our purpose, our drive? What kind of customers or clients do we want? Who are we? How do we want to show up? It's really important to already start cultivating that and being more intentional, because you have a brand anyway. It's more about not controlling, but influencing it. And the more that you have the clarity about who you are, what's important to you, the values, purpose, all of that, you start to show up intentionally and it's more consistent.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And you're right. I have worked at companies that have very, very solid mission statements, very intentional culture. And then I've worked at companies where you're like, what is this all about? Like, and you have absolute no idea, from one day to the next, depending on, and you've got managers going every which way doing, and then I have been at some volatile companies where it was like, this is not working. Strong arming employees, intimidating employees, where it was just a revolving door. And it was like, and that company doesn't exist anymore. Because you can't run on that. A company can't survive on that. Employees will never stay.
No, and especially, this day and age, I mean, the younger generation, and good on them for this, is they demand more than probably I'd say my generation did going up the ladder. We probably accepted, in fact, we accepted more of that strong arming and I'm the boss, do as I say. And, a lot of issues that happen within the workplace. Whereas, the generation coming into the workforce, and some who've been in, they are demanding more. They're demanding more in terms of going, actually, you know what? I don't want to work all these long hours and kill myself. And for what? They are looking at it more holistically than definitely my generation. And so employers have to shift. Sometimes I will hear businesses going, yeah, we've done this. We've always done it this way. This is how we're going to do it, and we're not going to change. And it's like, well, you probably won't be around for much longer because we are in one of the biggest industrial revolutions, the quickest, the fastest. And if you don't keep up, you're going to be obsolete.
Right.
And many companies have ignored the shifting, changing in the market, and, Blockbuster, BlackBerry, all of these, they're gone. They're
Right.
gone because they didn't listen. And, employees in terms of how you engage with people today is very different than 10 years ago.
Right. And, we're coming to time, but I just want to make one more point to what you were saying with that. From a sales standpoint, I was working with a company who, it's been around for many, many, many years. They have a product that is highly, highly specific, industry specific. Their clients come to them because they're very, very niche. They don't have a website. And one day I said, you don't even have a website. And they're like, we don't really need one. All of our clients come directly to us. And I wanted to say to them, like, you understand what's happening in the world. Like, if another company, when another company starts making what you make and they have a website, you're obsolete. You're done, because your customers are going to go, oh, look, I can find, I can Google this, and all of the sudden you're going to be wiped off the map. Like, but they've always done it that way. They have these, a couple of core clients that completely keep them in business. And it's like,
Right there makes me go, big risk, big flag.
Correct. And it's, and I just, and the reason, and I'm not even, I only noticed this because I was recruiting for them, and candidates wanted to go and look at their business to see what they were all about. And I'm like, oh, they don't have a website. And the candidates were even like, what do you mean? Like, how does a company not have a website? And I'm like, even just for recruiting employees, like, you can't exist like that anymore. And we've always done it this way. We've never needed
That's
one.
if anyone ever says that in any industry, or even if it's a personal relationship or anything, says, well, I've always done it this way. It
I know.
should just go bing, bing, bing.
I know.
And it's not to say that what they're doing is wrong necessarily. If they do say that, it's not necessarily all the time meaning they're wrong. But what that's showing you immediately is they're not willing to open up and listen and actually see what else might work, or what else they
Right.
could do. So they're not willing to grow and evolve. And that right there is a very closed mindset, which will get them, not very
Right.
far, in my humble opinion.
Right. Right. I agree. You're shutting down the opportunity for continued growth and to evolve with the changing world. And
Yeah.
for me, my goal is to learn something new every day so that I'm not left behind.
Mm.
And today, I mean, we live and breathe technology. We are constantly getting alerts. And if my business or your business is not out there alerting other people of your existence, I mean,
Yeah.
you don't exist as far as the world is
I mean,
concerned.
can you imagine a salesperson, if they actually said that well, we've always done it this way.
Right.
If they, or I've always done it this way, and not even, and maybe how they do it does work. I'm not necessarily, but just that mindset
Right.
already would tell me what kind of a salesperson that is.
That salesperson isn't going to be a salesperson for very long.
Correct.
They're I mean, from the way that I do sales today, from the way that I did it 10 years ago, is completely different.
Yeah.
Completely. So we are coming to time. You get your 30-second shameless pitch before we wrap up.
My shameless pitch. Ooh.
Yes.
Oh God, now you're asking me to be a salesperson.
Yep. Represent yourself, Catherine.
Well, look, it's simply put, Accelerate Growth 45 is very much about helping business owners get the results they want and enjoying the journey. And the key is creating value. And you do that by starting with a strategy, and a very well thought out strategy, and then executing it. And we help these businesses all along the way, so that ultimately you're making more money in the present as well as in the future. You get time back and you enjoy your life a lot more than what you probably currently are.
That's awesome. And how would somebody reach out to you if they wanted to do so?
Well, they can Catherine at accelerategrowth45.com. They can go to my website, which is Accelerate Growth 45. By the way, I will tell you what the 45 means, because people normally ask, like, what is the 45? And it's 45 seconds to change a mindset, 45 minutes to increase worth, and 45 days to accelerate growth. And so when people are quite purposeful about what they're doing, that's really how long it takes to shift those areas in your life.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And I was actually thinking, what does the 45 mean? But I just didn't have a chance to ask. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
And
you're welcome.
thank you so much for coming on. It's been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate your insight. And yeah, thank you.
Leanne, thank you so much for having me. And I really appreciate our time together. Always enjoy having these kinds of conversations. I could do it for hours and hours.
So could I. And I do.
This podcast is sponsored by Sales Rescue. Ready to revolutionize your sales strategy? Sales Rescue is here to transform your business's approach with proven success. At RescueMySales.com, we turn the frustration of missed targets into the thrill of exceeding goals, empowering you to meet and surpass your sales ambitions, leading to growth and profitability. Exclusively for Love Your Sales listeners, claim your free sales consultation today and receive our Sales Rescue AI playbook. Start your journey with sales excellence now. But hurry, this free offer is only available for a limited time. Visit RescueMySales.com now. That's RescueMySales.com. Don't miss this free opportunity at Sales Rescue, where we rescue your sales so you love your profits.
Thanks for joining us for Love Your Sales. For more, connect with Leanne on LinkedIn and be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear what you think. Looking for a way to take your sales process to the next level? Visit us at loveyoursales.com to find out more about how Leanne can take your organization to new revenue heights. And be sure to join us next time for more great ways to love your customers so they love your sales.